Welcome to Get Better Basketball Live. I'm Coach DeMarco, and today my guest is Coach Tyler Bardo, head basketball coach at Central Mountain High School in Pennsylvania. Coach Bardo is going to talk to us about using wide pin downs in a motion offense. Coach Bardo has shared out on this concept before, but he's going to talk to us about how to take it to the next level. You're not going to want to miss this episode. But before I jump into it, make sure you hit that like button down below, turn on your notifications, and subscribe to Get Better Basketball on YouTube. Another Get Better Basketball Live is up now. Welcome to Get Better Basketball Live. Coach DeMarco here with Coach Tyler Bardo, head basketball coach at Central Mountain High School in Pennsylvania, who's coming off back-to-back 5A district championships. Coach, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic, Coach. How are you?
I'm doing awesome, Coach. It's been great talking to you because, I think one of the first times we talked, you were just taking over Central Mountain High School. You had a really nice first season. And then now this past year, 24-3 record, district championship, and then going on, further on in the tournament. And we've talked about using wide pin downs in your offense, but I just want to start because that's going to be the topic today. And just really talk about the progress that you've seen from your first season at the helm up into this point, and maybe just some adjustments that you've made that we're going to see on film in a couple of minutes.
So the progress has been slow, I would say, but tedious in a sense. Slow by design, because we want to make sure that we have all the little details. And the group that just graduated for me was the first group that saw our coaching staff come all the way through. As if to say, when they were in seventh grade, that was our first year, and all the way up through their varsity ranks. So to see that progression for them, and that class in particular, to kind of show what we could do as a program, and what we could do offensively as a program, because we ended up averaging about 70 points a game, which in a state that has no shot clock is not always easy to do. So we built through this, and I know you and I have done two videos in the past on this offense and the different layers. Something that you'll see if you looked at past videos compared to this one is you're going to see the same kids, some of the same kids. They look a little bit different, they look a little bit bigger, but they have a better understanding. One of the biggest things, I think, when you talk about little tweaks that we had to make, you had mentioned back-to-back district championship runs. There was a moment in that first district championship run 2 seasons ago where the ebb and flow of a motion offense and the wide pin downs, and how there's so many different reads, our guys weren't getting. But the whole thing is predicated on one to the rim, one to the ball. We weren't sometimes getting. We might have been sometimes getting 2 to the ball, 2 to the rim, and that communication piece needed time. So what we did was we mandated tight curls. You had to go tight curl. The cutter had to come off and go to the rim. And obviously that was a natural flow for them to say, oh, this guy's overplaying. I'm going back door. I'm getting the same cut essentially to the rim. But that would also allow kind of an easier time for our screener to say, okay, I'm always going to pop right now. And it gave us a few years and from season to season, a few more months to really get some guys comfortable making those reads. Because in a true motion offense, I should not know, as the coach, and our coaching staff should not know, and the players should not really know, where is that shot coming from. We know what types of shots we want, but where is that shot coming from? And this year, it really came to fruition for those guys. Now, I'll predicate that we had some really talented guys and some guys that really put a lot of time into it. So there's always that mix and match.
Well, it sounds like you're putting guys in positions where they can be successful on the offensive end as well, Coach. And, I know we're going to talk about wide pin downs. We're going to talk about that pinch post action, which I really, really like. And then also ball screens, that you use within this offense, which I don't think you used maybe initially, or maybe not as much. But could you just take us through, before we jump into some video clips, just a quick blurb on like each of these concepts that you use within your motion offense?
So the wide pin down was probably it was the starter for me because it was something simple that I could put in for our guys. Remember, I took over. I was in the program before I took over as the assistant coach, and we had success before I was there. So I wanted to make it a seamless transition too for our guys that were returning and guys that were returning that had success and championships to their name. So the other thing is that those wide pin downs, they were kind of the starting point because there's four reads that you can have coming off of them. You can go tight curl, straight flash, you can pop or fade, whatever your terminology, or you can backdoor. So it gave you multiple looks right off the bat, and it allowed us to differentiate in our offense. I always tell those guys that we were runner up in our district that year, missing the state tournament. I tell them, if I knew then what I knew now, or if we could have done then what we could do now, they'd probably be sitting there with another district medal as well. But such great proof to the progression in that. You mentioned the ball screen. We did not use the ball screen for probably my first 2 years. I would even say probably my first 4 years. We didn't use the ball screen heavily. It might have been in some quick hitters or things, but it was not a part of our motion offense. The reason for that was because when you stop and think about all of the things that a ball handler has to process in such a short amount of time, we didn't want to put guys, as you had mentioned earlier, in a position where we didn't feel like they could be successful, where they might have had to shoulder too much of a load in that. And I mean, really, the way that we use it in our motion offense is that guy's a creator. He's somebody who can facilitate the game. Our point guard that you'll see here running a lot of these ball screens was 1,000-point scorer, but we never ran a play for him. We ran less than 10 plays in 4 years, and he had starting time in all 4 years. And we never ran more than 10 plays for him across those entire 4 years. He started 88 games or something, because we used him so heavily as a facilitator. So it took us some time. I really had to pull the reins back on myself a few times because, as a young coach, you just want to get everything in there and you just want to hammer it home. But a great lesson for myself there in patience, and they kind of saw it come to fruition. You even see a sophomore in these clips that started to go, and that's the best part about it is you get that guy that comes through, and Jack was that guy for us number 0 in the clips, and now we have a sophomore come in and start kind of right behind him. He shared the point guard duties. So you started to see that sophomore, now junior, um, take that ball screen processing and everything that we're working on with that, taking pops the rolls and everything else.
You talk about using the ball screens, and obviously there's levels of those reads.
Yeah,
The first level, sort of that ball screen, and then you're looking at the help defense. You're looking at the screener. So
right.
his person as well. So you're kind of reading progressively, and that can be difficult to teach. And as talented as a player might be, there's still a process to teaching that. So this is a
Sure.
tough question, but I'm
Yeah.
just curious, as we're thinking about ball screens and really just reading these screens. You talked about 4 different options off of the wide pin down as well. Is there something that you would recommend for coaches, like do this in practice to help players to learn how to make these decisions off of these screens?
We same thing when we go to implement it every year. We start on O, and it's usually 2 on O, or sometimes even with our junior high guys, it's 1 on O. We'll put a chair out there, we'll put a cone, a trash can, something to mimic that screener. The biggest thing that we focus on in the on O when we're just going on air is ankles to ankles, high side to high side. So if you can imagine yourself being on the right wing and you're coming off that wide pin down, we always tell our screeners straddle the 3-point line. That way it creates enough space because you're going to want to, the whole thing is you're bringing guys together, you want to respace. So we're going to have one to the rim, one to the ball. So we want to make sure that we're starting high enough. If you're on the right wing, your left foot is your outside foot as you're coming off that screen. And so we want our left foot to be on the high side foot of the screen. The second piece is when you start to add the defense to it, whether it's 2-on-2, 2-on-1, is that you want to tell that cutter, get the defender to the level of the screen. If I am at the level of the screen, the defender's below. I want him to go over top to create a better advantage. And it's not that, okay, if he goes under, of course, we have the pop or the fade, whatever your terminology choice, but or flare. But what we're asking then is for the point guard under pressure, or whoever has the ball at that point, under pressure, to make a pinpoint pass that's going to allow you to get a 3-point shot. It's I mean, it's basketball, right? And everybody else is competing just as hard. So I would suggest starting on O, really big focus on outside to outside for all four cuts. And then as you add a defense, whether it's to the cutter, to both, walk them to the level of the screen. If that defender's already standing at the level of the screen, don't go anywhere, right? Don't go anywhere. And the last thing I would always mention, this has been really huge for us, and it's as we're starting to go with, we're starting to bring in some inexperienced guys right now. They've been in the program, but being on the floor in those moments is different. And what we're seeing with them is, man, they play hard. They play really hard, but they need to learn to play a little smarter. And what I mean by that is the using of screens is about creating separation. It's not about how fast you come off of that thing. A lot of times, if you come off faster, you're less efficient. You want to come off under control, and be explosive. And we use that terminology specifically as explosiveness. We want to explode to be able to separate and create that separation, because then you're having two defenders make a decision, and somebody's going to come open, or they're going to give you a mismatch, or you're at least going to gain some position somewhere. So I would say those three things are probably the biggest things that we really focus on for our guys to be able to adapt then to live play.
That's awesome, Coach. And I know you've talked a little bit about that in your previous videos as well. I'm going to drop a link in the description down below so coaches can check those out if they want further breakdown of how you utilize the screens.